Good evening. I decided to make this quick stream because I was going to make a video, but I decided it would be better just to do a quick stream and talk about it. As you know, it has been just announced. Apparently, the EU and the US reached an agreement. So, the first thing we are going to do, we are going to see a video from Euronews where it's explained very summarily what happened. Okay, and I'm going to ask you to please pay attention to the wording. Please pay attention to the wording that Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen says about it. Okay, let's first start with that, and then we are going to discuss it. Amen. Please, let's go. This is in Euronews.
The European Union and the US have struck a tentative trade deal to avert a potentially devastating tariff war between the two of the world's largest economies. Under the agreed terms finalized on Sunday between Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and US President Donald Trump, the majority of EU exports bound for the US market will be slapped with a 15% tariff.
We've reached a deal on tariffs and trade with the United States. Today's deal creates certainty in uncertain times. It delivers stability and predictability for citizens and businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. This is a deal between the two largest economies in the world. We trade 1.7 trillion euros per year. Together we are a market of 800 million people, and we're nearly 44% of global GDP.
The preliminary deal struck in Scotland comes as a relief, especially as tensions mounted and the EU prepared several lists of retaliatory measures against US products worth 93 billion euros.
All right. Let's go back to the stream. First of all, let me just greet the folks that have come into the chat. Hello, Stephen Banker. This will be quick, my friend. This will be quick. Hello, Exotic Dog. Now, before I put on the video, I asked you to please be attentive of the wording that was used. Because if you are not a born English speaker like me, you will lose sometimes the fine print in the way non-English speakers say things, especially someone whose language is German, like Mrs. von der Leyen. Okay, I understand it because I'm part German. Okay, I have spoken German all my life. Now, let's continue. Remember when I explained to you what a tariff is? Do you remember it? And also pay attention to and I saw you can later you can say I saw the entirety of the video of Trump talking about what he wanted and what he didn't want. He spoke of energy. The EU agreed to buy energy from the US, and this part is important, and also they talked about things like, for example, tariffs on products and all of that. Now, what you have to understand here is something that is very important. First of all, the EU was already buying energy from the US. We are already buying. Portugal and Spain not so much because we get most of our oil from North Africa and Nigeria, places like that. But we were buying some oil products from the US. So we were buying oil and gas that was replacing the oil and gas that was produced in Russia and exported to Europe. Now, let's deconstruct this. If you understand what a tariff is a tax you apply to the things that you import from other countries. The US is mainly an importing economy, all right? The US imports components, the US imports products. So what this all means is this. If you're an American, your favorite French cheese that would had 50% cost over it is now going to have only a 15% cost over it. The difference for the European producer is perhaps selling less cheese, but for you, you are going to pay more for your food. You are going to pay more for your medicines. It will also the same. If the US, what does the US sell to Europe? I will tell you, weapons and energy. This means that the weapon contracts that the EU countries, several EU countries had with the US was suspended. In this way, they say complete the contracts, buy their weapons. But this will not stop the mechanism of weapon procurement inside of Europe. Not at all. Also, forgive me if I don't interact too much with the chat, but I need to get this through so people understand this and don't panic. This is no capitulation. This is nothing. This is economy. When you are analyzing economy, you cannot be emotional. You have to be cold. I'm sorry if I use this expression too much, but this is an expression that has been nailed into my mind since a very early age. My mom keeps telling me that. When you have things to do, you need to be cold and you need to be precise about it. Okay? You need to have the best interests of your country, and in this case, the entire EU countries, in mind. Just like Mr. Carney did with the media. Do you think he did that because he needs the US? He did that because he needs the citizens of Canada. Hello, gingers. He needs to have the interests of the Canadian citizens in mind. In this way, he can also buy time to disentangle the country from the US. And this is also what the EU is doing here, disentangling it itself from the US. This means that tomorrow, a French producer of cheese will know he can export his cheese to the US and that the taxes will be 50% tariff. He will slap that 15% on the goods and they will go to the US. And the US importer, that is the one that buys these goods, he is the one that's going to pay that. And then you Americans, you are going to pay that in the supermarket. So this so-called framework agreement is more than anything a good news for the Americans, because this means the food that you buy from the food and other things, no food, components, medicine, weapons, Heckler and Koch, where do you think that comes from, my friends? Okay, all of that, you are going to get that with just 15% of tariffs. This is all it means. The US won't be able to sell hormone beef in Europe because the health standards won't be correct. So the US won't be able to sell it, as in chlorinated chicken and other shit. As for the soft drinks, for example, like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all of that, they already produced it and bottled it here. It's produced and bottled here in Europe. Okay, understand this. McDonald's, KFC, all of that, it's all sourced here because it's the only way to do it. Okay, there have been plants in Portugal since the late 70s. Other countries even before. Some of those American companies, they are producing their goods with national companies. For example, I don't know if they still have the same name, but the name of the company here, that the bottling plant and producing drinks of all kind is Central Cervejas, and they produce, for example, they produce Coca-Cola, they produce Pepsi, they produce Fanta, they produce national drinks, they produce an entire thing. They manufacture, sorry, produce. They manufacture a lot of brands, and this is how things works. Coca-Cola arrives here and says, and goes, for example, to company A and says, look, you are already producing that. You are going to produce Coca-Cola under our rules, blah, 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 how it is. No, maybe they send a technician or whatever, and then those products are going to be bottled and produced here. McDonald's, same thing. Their meat, sourced locally. The buns, sourced locally. The potatoes, sourced locally. And when I mean locally, I mean EU. Arms. And here is what he came to do here. But in the question of the weapons industry, I think here the EU is buying time. I have heard of certain voices that are saying that they are trying to divert weapons production that is being done in the US to Europe. Some companies have already installed themselves in the UK. So this here, I think it will be in the interest of Europe because we need to develop weapons production and accelerate its production to supply weapons to Ukraine. The weapons that Mr. Trump is not going to supply them with because he likes Putin. He's a Putin lover. And this, I think, is the only concession I see here, just like Canada did that concession on the media. Europe did the concession here too. But remember this, the US and the EU are 44% of the world's economy, world's GDP, sorry. The value, hello Ginny, the value of the transactions between the EU and the in the EU and the US is 1.7 trillion euros, which now is about the same as dollars. Now, as for European investment in Europe, in the US, it's already happening. And I'm afraid to say this to the Americans, but this won't benefit you at all. Well, it will benefit you because you'll have more jobs, but it won't benefit you from the point of view of economy because all that this means is that now European companies have kind of a carte blanche to enter in the American market and buy off companies. And if you don't know how this works, let me explain to you. Imagine, for example, that one of your auto companies is going through severe problems in terms of finances. They are not making any profits. They are losing money. They cannot continue to maintain even a part of their production. A European company arrives and says, "Well, you're in trouble. Okay, I'm going to buy off. I don't know, 20% of your stock, and I'm going to invest 100 billions in 100, let's say billion, okay, bigly worth $100 billion in your company," and they invest it. Then it comes to the end of the year, and the European companies want the revenue on their money, and they say, "What? Look, I invested 100 billion, and you were only able to produce enough for 50 billion, you're 50 billion in less. No. Then you're going to sell, you're going to give me more of the stock of your company to compensate my investment, and I'm going to invest more. And this will be the entire story until that company, that American company, will be a subsidiary of a European company or Japanese company, whatever. But do you understand how this thing is going to work? And then you are going to have, with the level of debt that the US has, you are going to have further and further more dependence on foreign investment. And this tells me two things. One, Trump is even dumber than I thought. And two, the US really doesn't know what it's doing. Because this is not only going to be, you have heard him talking about it, talking about how he knew that China is going to invest, I don't know how many billions, okay, everyone is going to invest in the USA. You know what they are going to invest in? They are going to invest in doing what happened to the UK, that is pretty much bought off by foreign companies that are siphoning the wealth out of the country. And if you're an English, a British citizen, you know this is exactly what is happening. Water companies, electricity companies, energy, okay? Buying off land in your countryside, okay, rural properties. This is what Trump wants. And let me tell you this: there are bad people here in Europe too. There are shrewd and conniving, you know, malevolent, let's call it like this, negotiators here in Europe, and they are going to take this as a carte blanche to enter in the US and buy off stuff. And it's not going to be pretty, because European companies, since they are in an environment that is much more stable than the US, they are inside of the EU, and the UK is next door here, and the people in the UK can see how it's much more stable here. These companies will have enough money to invest in the US and buy off the US. But Trump doesn't care. You want to know why? Because he just wants to make money, and he just wants to have a big distraction for his issues inside of the White House and inside of his country. He ran off to Scotland. He doesn't care. So, what I want you to understand is this, and I still look, I have not read the fine printing of the framework of agreement, because naturally it still is not out. But I promise you I will be attentive to this. I will keep on it. I will keep on it, all right? And I am going to read the bloody thing and make a video about it when I know. But you must think of this as Europe taking care of itself. You cannot say, look, when you go into economy, I am going back to this point again because I think this is very important. Okay? This is very important. When you think of economy, you think of this as this. I have this business model. For example, I have the French and Germans here. I have the Portuguese and the Spanish here. I have the Irish here. Okay, I have the Austrian here. Okay, I have all of these countries with different economical interactions with the US. And I want to protect as much as I can my interests. And this buffoon tells me I'm going to put tariffs for 100%. I'm going to put tariffs for 50%. And the importers inside of the US, man, they start to cringe because they cannot buy without knowing how much they are going to pay at the customs. So you reach out to the lunatic, and he first was telling you, you are selling me your apples at 100 euros. No, you are going to sell me your apples at 200 euros. because I want to produce my own apples. Apples that he probably cannot even produce in his bloody country. And you reach an agreement and you say, okay, you are going to sell me your apples at 115 euros instead of 200 euros. This is exactly what happened here. Exactly to the T. Because no one in the US understands what a bloody tariff is. I mean, they understand, but the ones that understand are probably making a. Some are being told to shut up. You don't know what you are doing. President Trump knows best. He's our daddy. Okay, and others are simply too ignorant to know it. When I hear them talk, I do not see a single person that understands what is happening. Look, and if I can see it, do you think the people in the EU that were able to finish their degree in economics, not like me that had to go to work because of a family tragedy, do you think these people they don't understand exactly what they are doing? They do. They do. Don't look at this way. Don't look at it at a capitulation because that is an emotional reaction. And I understand it. Look, I understand it. I felt I felt disgust. I felt disgust in seeing Ursula von der Leyen having to shake the hands of that saint. The man is disgusting. He even leaned over her to make himself big because apparently he has some worries about his size in more than one way. If you understand what I'm trying to tell you, I felt disgust too. But what I saw there was a woman, a lady, and that she was thinking about the best interest of all Europeans, including me. And in a way, and in a way, and in a way, she was also thinking about the Americans because I don't think Americans have the the, the slightest idea, they don't have the slightest idea of how dependent they are of the EU in terms of medicine, in terms of food, in terms of components to their war machines. Look, the selling of American weapons to the EU can even benefit European companies because we are selling them the bloody components. You want to know? You want to know a funny thing? The U.S. no longer has the capability to build the high-tech engines it uses in its jets and in its tanks and whatever. All of those engines are produced partially or completely in Europe, in Asia, and funniest thing of all, even in China. This is the reality. These people don't live in the real world. They don't live in the real world. Eles ainda alles verhoek. They're all mad. Okay? This guy is now trying to hold on to power. Okay? This guy now is trying to hold on to power because of this entire pedophile scandal. But the truth is, like I said I think I talked about this in one of my videos or perhaps in a comment. Even here, a person like me that doesn't pay any bloody attention to those pink magazines of celebrities and whatever, everyone was talking about how he was walking around with that bloody pedophile of my water, that bloody pedophile that got jailed and apparently hang himself in the jail. That I don't know what happened. All I know is that there is a lot of footage time missing. Hmm? Even here we knew that. Everyone knew how twisted these people were. Everyone knew that Trump liked them young. Everyone knew. Everyone. Democrats, Republicans, everyone knew. And yet, all of them kept silence. And now, apparently, this cannot be silenced anymore. And he's getting sicker by the minute. He is getting weaker by the minute. He's getting older by the minute. Okay? Remember that his dad died with when he died, he had dementia. And Trump also has it. And it's a natural thing to happen in an older person like that. And with the lifestyle that he has. Okay? Drinking, eating improperly, not eating properly, drinking, perhaps doing drugs, I don't know. Okay? Women, parties. That wears off the body. Okay? That wears off the body. You have to have a some men have that, some men and women have the common sense that when they reach a certain age to stop. Okay, some men they have that thing to stop, but people like Trump, no. So uh, I won't be continuing much more. All right, my my internet is acting up. I'm having a bit of uh, change rate between what appears here in the stream screen and with what I'm saying. It's being a bit okay. Now, sorry, got lost here in the chat. Now, let's go back to the deal. Remember, first of all, remember this is a framework of an agreement. This means this is just the initial stats. Just to say to the people outside, look, it's going to be like this. Okay? Perhaps they still have to decide the steel thing. Is it going to be also 15% on steel? And all of these numbers that Trump spread out, don't make no matter of it, because he just wants bigly numbers to send to his MAGA crowd in Trumpistan. All right, but please stay calm, okay, and don't sweat it. All right. Now, as I said, this would be a short stream, Steven Banker, I promise. Okay, so I thank you all for coming. I will continue on this. All right, I won't stop it. I will read as soon as it's available. I'm going to read about it. Going to try to see what is the framework, and then I'm going to make another dedicated video to it. Okay. Now, bye, bye, everybody, and thank you for stopping by. See you in the next one. Okay.